Come on along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, last day of July 31st. Todd Leary, it's been a wet week. Probably not a lot of golf for you this week.
Not a lot, nope, but it's good for the course.
I was thinking that very thing when I was getting back. I was out of town for a few days, but when I was coming back, but it was raining, but the sprinklers were on out there. I'm like, well, they're not going to be lacking water this week.
Well, I saw the sprinklers on last night after it had poured all day long. It seemed a little odd.
I was like, man, you think that they could control that, but
I'm sure they're set on a timer, but
yeah,
might have wanted to click that one off for the day.
It's kind of what I was thinking with that amount of rain that they lose.
Now, you know what happens? Courses do this all the time. Now, you know what will happen? Today it'll be cart path only. And they'll have had the sprinklers on all night.
Probably for the next couple of days.
Yeah, whatever.
NBA got started. They were officially underway last night. The Lakers pulled out. Looks like they pulled one out. I didn't get to see anything.
I officially watched 2 complete NBA games. First time I could probably say that in 10 years, maybe.
Really?
At least.
Wow.
Watched them both. I watched them both.
Who'd you watch?
Games. I watched Zion Williamson in New Orleans last night playing Utah. It was entertaining. Zion is one of those freak basketball players to me, and I don't get caught up in all the athleticism and all that, but a guy of his size to move like that, I hope he plays for 6 or 7 years in the NBA, and then I hope he goes and plays for 6 years in the NFL, because he would be so fun to watch play any sport.
Yeah,
but
he is.
He's a freak. Like he's a freak athlete amongst freak athletes.
He's definitely unique. Also noticed with the Utah Jazz, Donovan Mitchell, his post-game press conference, he went to it with a bulletproof vest on. The NBA players have said they are going to use this as an opportunity to use their platform, and they weren't kidding. And so that was a good one. But he had all the names of victims sewn on the vest.
Hey, if it helps create better social justice, I'm all for it. Go for it.
That's right. That's his statement. The Big Ten Institute statement, there's no guarantee that the football is going to be played per Pat 40 released that. The schedule's due out anytime. It could come out anytime from today over the next several days. But it is expected out soon. We saw the SEC has gone to conference-only games. That means no Louisville and Kentucky, no South Carolina, Clemson. So you got a couple games that's going to be lost there, some rivalry games.
I also didn't I see their first game was going to be September 26th? Has the Big Ten already pushed back? Because, IU and Wisconsin was supposed to play the 4th.
Well, I think all that stuff is blown up now.
All that's moved back?
I think all that is blown up because
this new schedule is not. Yeah, this new schedule is not just going to be the teams. It's going to be new dates and everything, probably, right?
Well, one of the things that was mentioned in the story of the potentially is of taking the league, your divisional games, the Big Ten East games, and moving those towards the front and the other games towards the back. Well, Wisconsin was the first game on Indiana's schedule, which is not a league game. So, but it was also a Friday night game. I don't know if they're still going to keep that, which I hate Friday night games, by the way. They should eliminate that. That's high school night, but I don't know what they're going to do with that. But the potential is to move the division games up front, the Ohio State, Penn State, right, Michigan, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see how it works out. And then I don't know that if they've even guaranteed to decide to add that 10th game. I think that they did, but it's
surely they will, since the SEC did it. And who'd we just see? There was the ACC that said they were having 11 games?
+1. Yeah, they're doing a +1.
Yeah.
They're adding a non-con game, which I see. I find that to be very dubious because here – you got the Big Ten, who's conference only. Now they're like, oh, well, if we get to play. So, I guess, if you're going to play, I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I think caught me the most by surprise, or not by surprise, it was just nice to see the information, was the SEC announcing that first game was going to be the September 26th weekend, and then their conference championship was going to be December the 19th. So
they may have done that. That's definitely pushing dates back.
Yeah, they set those dates already. So that was interesting. Yeah, that's super late. That's a month
late
late
start date, because what the Big Ten is wanting, and I think most will want to do, is put a lot of buffer in there. They're stretched the season out a little longer than it normally is, but more blank weeks, more bye weeks, more ability to be flexible, I think, is what they're trying to find.
Yep. I mean, I'll just be interested. I'm excited to see the IU schedule and the dates when they come out. Cause I think we'd be on par to say, I think they're going to move that September 4th game back a little bit.
I would think that that particularly, again, because it's a non-divisional game, they definitely may get moved, especially on top of multiple reasons. But yeah, and Indiana's season has definitely gone from expecting a big season to now it's going to be a challenge. I mean, because you've got no non-con games. So basically you're taking 3 wins off the record right there, just erasing 3 W's, because that's what those are. Now you've got a conference-only schedule. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult, but this team is good. They've got a good team. It's not that I think that they're overmatched, because I've already said, they should have beat Penn State at Penn State last year. I think that they should beat them here this year if they have them. They should beat Michigan State here. Now, these road games that Ohio State, I'm not going to talk about Ohio State because that's just a juggernaut. But when you go to those places, that's half the battle half the time is those 100,000 seat stadiums. Well, that's not going to be an issue for anybody. And I'm telling you, I think that's going to make for some exciting college football games on the road this year that may not have been.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to limit the home field advantage for those, especially those big places that hold 100,000. But I don't mind. I think we would get used to the conference only schedule. I think we would get used to that. I don't. Hopefully, for years we're not going to have to get used to it. But I don't think it'll bother us that much this year. And I just mean us as sports fans. I'm not saying that IU, but if this IU team is what they are all cracked up to be, what the hype is all about, if it's true, they should win 6 games in the conference. And as long as they do, I mean, if a 6-game conference win season would be, that'd be monumental. The crazy part is in the stat book, 25 years from now, it's going to look like a 6-win season. Yeah.
If you go 6-4 and people will look at that and go, yeah.
But to have Indiana's first 9-win season since what?
You are absolutely right. That would have been equivalent to a 6-win season this year would be equivalent to 9
wins. Right.
So yeah, if they can do that, that would be incredible. But I think that we will recognize that. And you're right. Even in the media, when you look at it, 6-4, like, well, that was good. But you won't have that same level of excitement of when it looks like a 9-3.
Right, for sure.
For whatever
if you Wikipedia Indiana football right now, and all the years records pop up, I mean, you could just scroll your eyes down the list and you see 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins. Occasionally, you'll see an 8 win. You're like, oh, that was a good year, and you're going to see a 6 in this category and scroll right past it. 25 years from now, for the next 2 or 3 years, we'll know what it's about. But, I don't remember a lot about the 1997. So, yeah, they'll be for every team. Everybody's fighting the same battle. I get it.
Everything. So much. But a lot of asterisks.
The good news is these guys, when they're working out, when they're getting ready for the season, when they're getting ready for a game, they're not, believe me, they're not thinking about what people are going to look at this 25 years from now. They're looking at what's in front of them. And they need to win, they need to win every game. And like you said, Ohio State's going to be, that would be a kind of a gigantic upset. All the rest of the games, they should have a chance to win.
I'm telling you, it's going to be, I think it can be exciting for Indiana because they're kind of unknown to a lot of these guys. Michael Penix he's known, but he's not. He's been there and he's not been there.
Here's the thing. You and I, we discussed this ad nauseum last year at the beginning of the basketball season about everyone complained about how easy IU schedule was, IU basketball. And we're not going to have to deal with that this year, especially in football. I have no issue with there being, we're starting out from day one and it's a game you're going to watch from beginning to end. And I'll be honest with you, when Indiana's ahead 38-14 against Ball State, I don't watch the fourth quarter. I mean, don't mean to be a jerk about it, but I don't watch the fourth quarter. We do in basketball. We watch it till the end because we do a show afterwards and we report it. But, I'll be excited to watch. If Indiana's ahead in an Illinois against whomever, I'm just making up squads, but if they're ahead against Michigan State in the fourth quarter, I'll still be watching it. So I don't mind the conference-only schedule.
No, especially when you're in a Big Ten conference. That's a very fortunate thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And not only that, Indiana, you want to talk about from an exciting standpoint, from a fan standpoint, what better menu of games? My gosh, you get Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State. I mean, you've got some of the top teams in the country every year. Not a lot of people can say now that's a burden, but it's also an opportunity.
I'm going off of memory, but home games are big time. Home games are Penn State's here, Michigan State's here, Purdue's here. Yeah. Okay. So that's a good home schedule.
Oh, there'll be another. We don't even know what it's going to be, to be honest with you. Now, I would think, even though the change is coming, that they would keep those yearly rotational deals in line, because that would just screw everything up if you go away with that. So I'm assuming Penn State and Michigan State are coming here this year because it's their years to come here. That's what the schedule is set. I don't think that'll change, but we don't know because of do they go to geography? Do they change things because of COVID and try to make it?
So you think they may revamp the entire schedule?
Well, only to a degree. You got to play your divisional games, so that's those games are not going away. And then hell, you don't have a lot of other opportunities anyway, so there's not a lot of options. You've already got,
sure.
So they're not going. That just makes their work even harder. But I'm just guessing. But I know the divisional games are there. They're gonna, and you already have cross games that are set. They just have to add to that potentially. But again, the big thing for Indiana is we've talked about a potential of playing Northwestern and Peyton Ramsey, which I don't think that's going to affect anything. I think Indiana is better than Northwestern with or without Peyton Ramsey, regardless. But I'd hate to see that. I don't really want to see that game personally. I don't want to see him go against Indiana.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it happen. But if it does, it does. I mean,
if it does, it does. And Indiana's a better team. I don't care who their quarterback is. Indiana's a better team right now than Northwestern. And
who are the teams? So for that, if they add that 10th game. Are the possibilities Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, Minnesota?
Minnesota.
That's the four opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, out of those, if it's a home game, I would take Nebraska or Northwestern. I'd take Nebraska or Northwestern, either way. I mean, I probably would rather play Northwestern. I hate to say it. I
guarantee you, because I think Nebraska, they got out of there with a great win on the road down there in Lincoln last year. I was down there for that. It was incredible. Now, that would be – you want to talk about putting a bigger stamp? Bring the Cornhuskers in to Memorial Stadium and beat them here.
For the hype for this team that they have right now, I would love to have Nebraska come in here. I don't think they'll make us go to Nebraska because we went there last year.
And there's a chip on Indiana's shoulder about Nebraska because last year when that game was over, boy, oh boy, did that come through, man.
There's probably a chip on Nebraska's shoulder right now because their coach talked a lot of trash about playing Indiana. And he got his wish, and it didn't come out the way he wanted. So I bet he took it out on them for the week.
Oh, yeah, they've been wearing him out with that. Hey, Alec Lasley's going to join us to talk some IU basketball from the Hoosier.com up next. And Andy Katz is going to be with us as well. He thinks that Indiana basketball is undervalued. He's got a Twitter post out there about that. You can go check that out. But he'll be with us here as well. So we've got Alec Lasley up next. You're listening to the Indiana Sports Beat. We're coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Monday's blue, Tuesday's gray, and Wednesday too.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, July 31st. Joined now Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Alec, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're here. A little basketball underway last night with the NBA getting started, and we're hoping that things proceed. We got to talk to Archie Miller this week and some players. That was good to do that. First time in quite a while, and a lot of excitement out of Archie. I mean, he really, really likes this team.
Yeah, I think that was the main takeaway kind of from everyone on Tuesday, kind of just how much he's super excited for this team, but more importantly, kind of how excited the other players are as well. It really looks like this is a close-knit group of guys, and it's kind of taking that next step and really kind of building what, Indiana thought they were going to get when Archie Miller kind of set foot on campus.
Absolutely. And that's got to be helpful for recruiting, because we know recruits see this stuff. They follow everything on social media now. So all the positive vibe. Andy Katz is going to join us after you. And he posted yesterday that he thinks Indiana's undervalued. And that they think that. But getting back to the recruiting side, that's got to help with these kids. They see this and they see the excitement. They want to be a part of that excitement. We talked about it before. Good players want to play with good players.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, the chemistry portion is one of the bigger things, obviously, in recruiting when you're going on visits, obviously not now, but, in prior years, when you're going on visits, connecting with the guys is really the thing that kind of maybe takes you over the top and where to commit. Obviously, your relationship with the coaches, what you like about the campus is obviously a huge part of it as well. But I think that tipping point for a lot of these recruits is kind of the relationships they build with some of these players and incoming players in whatever class they may be in. And obviously you're kind of seeing that with Indiana now, from freshmen up to seniors, really enjoying the time that they're kind of spending with each other on and off the floor, which is super important. And obviously building a really solid core group and core foundation for your program.
Todd, one of the things I've noticed, and I posted this a few days ago, is I've seen a lot more of recruiting by the players on this team here of late. Trace Jackson Davis was really strong about it last year. He continues, of course. Seen Logan Duncombe doing that a lot with Trey Kaufman. Not just Trey Kaufman, though. I saw just the other day it was somebody else he was posting about. So, but that's you have to have that. Or at least Indiana needs it right now, and I think there's nothing more invaluable than that.
Honestly, it's probably just as big as the relationship with the coach, and for a lot of recruits, it may even be a bigger deal. And I'll tell you another thing that doesn't hurt, and we kind of touched on this for a second yesterday. I don't even remember if it was on the air or not, but seeing Jordan Geronimo post a video, a side-by-side photo of himself when he got here a month and a half ago versus what he looks like now, that is a recruiting tool. I mean,
he looked like a cyborg.
He looked great in the first picture, but if you really study it, you look at the size of his shoulders and the size of his legs and the size of everything involved in it, you're like, that's a major transformation in a pretty short period of time. And that's a gigantic recruiting tool. And I know Archie Miller I talked to him the first week he got here to the campus when he got the job, and he was as excited about the hire of Cliff Marshall as he was anything else involved. And I got to tell you, seeing that post by Jordan Geronimo is a gigantic recruiting tool, and other guys noticed that for sure.
And that's an aspect of the game that was basically not even around when you played.
I chuckled because do you know how funny it would have been for me and Pat Graham to have posted a side-by-side picture of ourselves next? I mean, first of all, my stomach never looked like that.
I was going to say, would it just say pre-steak and shake and post-steak and steak and shake?
Man, was I laughing when I saw that. I was like, well, he looks like the Under Armour model, which I don't have any point of reference when it comes to that. But I'd have loved to seen a picture of Pat Graham poking himself in the belly for his diabetes shots every day.
Alec, you talk to these guys a lot more than most of us. So what's your take on that? How does that carry over, that kind of marketing? Because it's a marketing tool, but sure. It's Todd's right, man. That's eye-catching.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing, especially with kind of the addition of Cliff Marshall. That's been kind of one of the main points of emphasis. Obviously, not so much. Obviously, all these kids want to get that six pack, want to obviously show these show the growth and the muscles that they have. But it's more so, all these players obviously want to get to the next level and play in the NBA or play overseas. And obviously, the only way to do that is get stronger and get better and more mature as your body grows. And I think that's one thing that Cliff Marshall's really doing with this group of guys, and really making sure that they're not only, obviously set up for their, freshman, sophomore, junior years or however long they're in college, but, their bodies are getting ready for the next level. And that's something that all these recruits that I've been speaking to is just one thing that really kind of stands out for them.
Well, Jordan Geronimo was the only thing he was lacking was wings in that picture, because I was waiting for him to just fly away. I'm like, gee whiz.
He was huge. Yeah.
I mean, his legs were, the funny thing is the legs is what stood out to me, the difference. And I'm thinking, wow, rebounding. Now we had this thought with Justin Smith because he was a great athletic specimen and it didn't really translate. I don't think we're talking about, this is a whole different deal here. I think Geronimo was excited. He's got that 7-foot wingspan, Alec. I think that, wow. But he's the one we know the least about coming in.
Yeah, and I think one of the major parts about his game and his development that he needed to make was just getting stronger and getting bigger. And obviously, I don't think anyone really expected him to make that jump in the first month and a month and a half that he was on campus. But I think that kind of raises the expectations just a little bit about what he's going to be able to do on the floor as a freshman, kind of early on, especially in an off season that has kind of been hit or miss in terms of how frequently they can actually be on the floor and be working in kind of 5-on-5 aspects. But obviously the Big Ten is very physical, very, very tough. And as a freshman, your body takes a lot of the pounding. But with him obviously putting on this much muscle and you can see the development already, I think it's something that's definitely going to benefit him right off the bat coming in this year.
Now, Christian Lander, Todd, different type player, point guard, different. I don't want to say different muscles, but it's a different. You're going to be doing different things, not rebounding as much, this and that. But he's not a guy I expect to see them bulk up like that. But he definitely needs to add strength and size and mass and all that.
Yeah, I mean, his will be different. I mean, when you look at guys that are that size to start with. If you put on 8 to 10 pounds on a guy that size, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of muscle. And the biggest factor with him is it's going to be being able to take the beating. He doesn't need to be insanely powerful. He needs to be quick and be able to take a beating a little bit. It was really funny because I don't watch enough NBA, I think, to have made this analogy before yesterday, but watching Mike Conley yesterday, I'm shocked in my mind
that he's still
after
playing?
Watching Christian Lander. I was shocked I hadn't compared him to Christian Lander or compared Christian Lander to him earlier on, because I've seen both of them play enough that I should have seen the similarities, and there's a lot of similarities. I mean, I think he could play a lot like a Mike Conley, who I don't think he would have any problem being compared to Mike Conley right now.
No,
he's probably a better shooter.
What is he in his 80th year in the NBA now?
Yeah, I mean, last year he was the highest paid player in the league. I mean, I don't think anybody would sniff at that.
Seriously, I think he's been playing a long time. He's had a long
graduated
career.
From high school, and he couldn't have been too long. He graduated high school like 2004 or 5.
Pretty good run.
Ish. No, that's great. Yeah, I think he only played 2 years in college, and
he played 1 year. He played 1 year with Odin and Daquan Cook and that crew.
Alec, anything new on the recruiting side?
I mean, obviously, the kind of biggest thing this week was the North Carolina offer to Trey Kaufman. I think,
we didn't talk a lot about that either.
Yeah, there's kind of two sides to that. Obviously that's definitely, a significant development, but it's not something that, is really going to impact his recruitment too much right now. Obviously, he was nowhere near making a decision, in the next couple of weeks. So it's not like that's really going to impact that timeline. I think if anything, it may just kind of push it back a couple weeks to maybe a month, just to see kind of how things go with being able to take visits. But if we kind of turn the corner here to January and even February, and still not able to take visits, then I think at that point, I think Trey's just going to end up kind of cutting ties with trying to visit places when you get to that deep in the process.
It's not going to happen. Archie does not see visits happening through 21, which that is even I don't see that happening, because I don't know that they can predict that out, because if a vaccine comes out next month, who knows, all that changes. But as of right now, Archie does not see that happening even throughout the next season. So if that's the case, I think UNC is too late to the party regardless. I posted the other day, I know that they're a blue blood program, and you're going to give them you're not going to, slap them away, but they're way too late to the party here. Whether it's Indiana, Purdue, or even Virginia, they've been here way too long, and especially the in-state schools have really, really been working with the relationship side. And UNC, there's just no way I could see them coming in this late in the game. And a kid with Trey Kaufman. Now, if it was somebody else, maybe different. But he's super smart. He's super academic oriented, and he's just so grounded. I don't see any effect by this UNC offer personally.
Well, for a few of the same reasons why we weren't surprised at some of the guys picking Villanova in the last couple of weeks, I think that's the same reason why I think Indiana has an advantage. I'm not saying he's going to go to Indiana, but I think Indiana's got the advantage over in North Carolina when it comes to this situation, because when we've talked to Trey Kaufman, he seemed like a very family-oriented kid. Obviously, it's going to be much easier for his family to go to an IU game than it is a North Carolina game. So for the same reasons, I think Indiana's missed out on a couple of recruits in the last couple of weeks that have gone to Villanova because of their geographic high school or where they're from. I think Indiana's got that advantage with Trey Kaufman.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it comes down to the relationship part of it. And, more times than not, that's obviously going to win out. But even more so now. And obviously Indiana's been in there pretty much the longest with Kaufman. And, obviously I think the major point though is that he's not going to be able most likely to visit North Carolina. And I think that is obviously in the end going to obviously kind of help Indiana in this aspect of it, along with that relationship that he's already built, because Roy Williams tends not to really come into the recruiting of a prospect until much later in the process. And obviously at times that helps him, at times that does hurt him. And especially now, like you said, it may be a little bit too late, but I think just the whole relationship that he's already behind the 8 ball with that, and no visits can really happen. That's usually when Carolina kind of makes up their ground, when they can get a recruit to campus.
Hey, Alec, would you agree with the fact that I think Indiana's season could also impact the decision? I mean, as long as they had a somewhat expected good season, I think it'll play itself out, and Trey Kaufman will make the decision, probably, I would say, to lean towards Indiana. But if they had a horrible season, I think it could impact him choosing IU over a school like North Carolina.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think though he's going to kind of look at it a lot deeper than just wins and losses in terms of that one season, and I really think. His whole thing is, let me get on campus. Let me make sure it's the right fit. Let me make sure the relationship is there. And let me make sure that I trust the coaching staff. And if he still trusts, Archie Miller, regardless of kind of what goes on the floor, I still think that's going to win out in his mind than anything else.
And because of COVID, there's so many unknowns right now. He's one of the smarter ones. I mean, just sitting back and letting it happen, because he's in no need to, no hurry. There's no reason for him to be in a hurry. Alec, you got anything coming up on the Hoosier.com that people need to know about?
Yeah, just real quick, back to your point about that. We heard Trace Jackson Davis talk about his kind of decision to return to IU when he was on the call on Tuesday. And one of the main things he talked about was that uncertainty. Around the NBA, not knowing kind of when that deadline would be, not knowing kind of when the workouts would be. So again, him and Trey Kaufman tend to have kind of that same mindset. So that kind of just touching back on your point there. Obviously your recruiting's kind of not slowing down right now, but there haven't been a ton of events going on with a lot of IU guys in it. Obviously going to continue to look at some of these 2022 guys that are slowly showing up on IU's radar, but obviously still got a long ways to go in that class and everything going on. But it could be a big weekend for IU football with a couple, announcements going on tomorrow.
Tim hit the text line asking, can they get Trace Jackson Davis's brother? That would be a unique combination to have here.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I think he'll end up sticking to the football field, but he's great athlete all around, and obviously a very, very talented family that they have going on there.
Alec, thanks a lot for joining us, man. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at @Lesley, and of course at thehoosier.com, complete coverage of Indiana athletics. Have a great day, brother, and a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy all the sports coming back.
Loving it.
See you, bud.
Alec Lesley from thehoosier.com joining us. Up next, Andy Katz is going to join us. Stay tuned. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back after this.
You wait for more if you need help. If you need help, your hope dangling by a string, or sharing your suffering to make you well.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Oh, if the sky comes falling down.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, final day of July 31st. Joined now by Andy Katz, college basketball insider from NCAA.com, Big Ten Network, Fox. He's all over. Andy, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully everyone is staying safe out there.
Absolutely. Same to you. Yeah, trying to get through this craziness. We just got the chance to talk to Archie and the players this week for the first time in quite a while. Not a lot of buzz about this team, and one of your posts yesterday on Catch and Shoot, make sure you follow Andy on Twitter. But you talked about Indiana being a little undervalued, and I think Indiana fans, of course, feel that way, but there's a reason that they haven't performed the last couple of years, so I think a lot of people are maybe a little trepidation. But, man, you're right. They've got a lot of key components coming back.
Well, especially in advance of the August 3rd, which is Monday, the early entry withdrawal date for the NCAA. We don't know what's going to happen with Illinois. They've got two key players, Ayo Dosunmu and Kofi Coburn, and obviously Luka Garza for Iowa. Michigan State's got Xavier Tillman and Aaron Henry still undecided. So what Indiana has is, for the most part, a really good core group coming back. And we've seen that experience matters. Trace Jackson-Davis, I actually talked to him yesterday for our podcast and a video piece that's going to run on Tuesday. And, he mentioned Daniel Oturu from Minnesota, that freshman to sophomore jump. Look at what happened in Maryland, the last two bigs they've had. Bruno Fernando, freshman to sophomore. Jalen Stick-Smith, freshman to sophomore. Those jumps are significant. He feels he can make one of those jumps. You add him with Joey Brunk, Race Thompson, that's a nice rotation inside. I think the perimeter is going to be really strong with the experience of Al Durham, Rob Finney, and then now you add Christian Lander. So they've got those three they can rotate in. Hunter Franklin, rotation guys, and I'm sure there will be others that are going to factor in. But for the most part, they've got a really good starting seven, if you will, that will have a lot of experience, and at least the newcomer and Lander, that should at least put them in position. Hopefully, we have what we hope is a long season, but at the very least, within the Big Ten and possibly for postseason in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and Andy, the one name that none of us, including us, have talked a lot about is Jerome Hunter. And I think that not knowing if he's had further development and what that can mean, because he was just getting his sea legs back last year after going through all that injury that he had to deal with, that situation he had to deal with. But he could be a real X factor here. If his game continues to improve, that's something that can really put this team over the top, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the players in talking to their staff that they think, and every offseason, regardless of pandemic or not pandemic, there's always a couple players that everyone's really high on that maybe didn't get a chance to shine, and he's one of them for Indiana. Now, I will tell you that I think it was 2 years ago, I mean, there was a lot of chatter within their staff about Justin Smith and how he could be the breakout guy, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out at Indiana. So, clearly, there's always this one player that people really think will really blossom, and he's the name that's being bandied about that is not as familiar, certainly nationally or within the conference.
Yeah, I mean, this is Todd Leary. Hey, Andy, how you doing? I mean, this is Jerome Hunter is a guy that I mean, if you put Race Thompson and Jerome Hunter in a bowl, and you those two guys can fill out a position. I mean, last year Joey Brunk started all the games, but there was a lot of games by the first. He only played 4 minutes in the first half and would play less than 10 minutes for the game. That position filled by either Race Thompson or Jerome Hunter. Like, to me, they're the X factor in whether Indiana can be, a top 10 team or they're going to hang around there. I think they'll always be kind of around that top 20 to 30 teams, but those guys filling out that position. And I don't get overly hyped about Jerome Hunter from the standpoint of making shots. I want him to be a big time rebounder. And if somebody can fill Justin Smith's rebounding numbers, I think the points are going to come from other places. They've got guys coming in that can score the basketball a little better. But, I'm just really hoping they can fill out that position, whether it's Joey Brunk or Race Thompson or Jerome Hunter. I mean, I think they're going to play with a 3-guard lineup most of the season. So with Trace Jackson Davis, there's going to be one other guy that fills that lineup with them. And out of those three, it's just if one of those guys can really have a breakout season, they could be a top 10 team.
Well, and let's be honest, this is going to be a very year, unprecedented. And so based on the guys that just rattled off, Lander is the only one that is completely new, to the program. And, if we don't start on time, if there are delays, disruptions, you want experience. You want players that at least know what they're doing, have gone through this, have been to these venues, especially if there's no fans. I mean, there's so many different factors that could occur that you're going to want players who have at least been through, some of this in the past. And, I'm trying to know how many did I rattle off. I mean, there's 8 guys, and 7 of the 8 have experienced some form of Big Ten basketball or practice. I think that's a huge advantage over other teams that are going to have to rely on a lot of newcomers.
I couldn't agree more, and we also have an unknown X factor in Jordan Geronimo, only because we're not familiar with him. But man, they have posted we were talking earlier, the transformation physically that he has made already. It's just striking, and that can go a long way. That's something that Christian, we talked about, he's going to need as well to bulk up to get that on him, because he's only 17 years old, and so there's a little extra stress on him.
Yeah, and look, the other benefit they have right now is, and hopefully this will continue, is they're working out right now. That's a positive. Not everyone is. Some, like Iowa, had to halt their workouts. So we'll see. Hopefully they can continue this and be virus-free and not have disruptions. But I'm going to just tell you that, and this is for every team, and I talked to Trace Jackson Davis about this, they're going to have to make a commitment as student athletes to say, you know what, if we want this season, we have to literally almost create our own bubble, which is practice, dorm, or practice apartment, eat. And it's unfortunate, but the social life is going to really have to be diminished dramatically, if not erased. And I got a college-age, kid now too. So it's, it's really disappointing. But at the same time, look what we're seeing at Rutgers. They're tracing their outbreak with their football team to a party. And so all these factors, and that I still go back to a veteran team, are going to play into that. So if you've got a veteran team who says, look, if we want to have a season, this is what we're going to have to do. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen this year, and what we're seeing in Major League Baseball is if a team has an outbreak, they're just going to sit it out, and the rest are going to keep going on, as much as possible. So you don't want to be that team. You don't want to have to suddenly miss 4 games over 2 weeks. And a lot of that's going to be discipline among a veteran team that's got good leadership.
Yeah, because we talked about Indiana's been fortunate; their numbers have been extraordinarily low, but these other teams have had higher numbers now. But I'm thinking, wow, well, they're dealing with that now. What happens in the middle of the season? Your quarterback gets it or whatever. And that's a major blow. You're going to lose someone like that in the middle of the season. We also talked about the advantage of the home field advantage. This possibly just going to disappear this year. How are games going to change in that regard? I know I'm thinking football at this moment, but it's just so much difference. It's changing sports, and I think that can carry over at basketball. It doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. It's going to change what happens in sports this year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Indiana and Purdue, or take Butler and the state, all 3 have great home courts. So what's that going to be like if we start on time but we don't have fans or very limited fans? My gut is if we have fans in the late fall, early winter, it would be limited. I'm obviously optimistic and hopeful that as the season goes along, that we would be able to have more or higher percentage. I'm not as optimistic if we start in November, but that's going to take away, that advantage. And it'll be interesting to see what happens, in this Orlando bubble, because there is no home court. Watching the NBA, without any kind of home court advantage, and it's just basically going to be talent and leadership and experience that wins. And obviously, even as they travel, it's going to be a different way to travel. So how every team handles that, I think there's going to be, by the way, probably more bus trips. Most of these teams at this level obviously charter, so that's a benefit. But, it's just going to be a lot of unknowns that they're going to have to deal with, hopefully in the short term, not in the long term. And I just keep going back to their experience. I think will be a benefit.
There are a lot of expectations for this basketball team, a lot mainly from the fans, of course. But as we've talked about, you think they're undervalued. We think the same as well. So those expectations are there. But with this year, is this going to be a gimme year for almost all coaches?
Well, yeah. I mean, I do think there's because of the cost situation in terms of the economics of college athletics right now, I do think a lot of coaches that would be perceived to be in trouble or need to get to the tournament, things of that nature. I do think there's a grace period, because it's going to be very difficult right now to buy contracts out, not just from the university level, but from any kind of booster donations, because everyone's being hit economically. So why would you necessarily have, or maybe you do, but it'd be rare that you'd have all this discretionary funds at this moment to help just buy out a contract. So I do think that for a lot of coaches, and I'm not speaking specifically of anyone in Indiana, but I do think a lot of coaches, will have a little bit more of a leash, based on the overall economics that we're all facing.
I agree. Andy, you got anything coming out that next or new that the people need to know about?
Well, just our regular podcast, March Madness 365. We've been doing it throughout the course of the year, coming out every Tuesday morning. And so, as I said, I got an interview with Trace Jackson Davis that we did a video and audio, so you'll be able to see both of those on our social media handles, March Madness and NCAA.com.
Andy, we cannot thank you enough for joining us. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and keep up with him at NCAA March Madness, also on the BTN and Fox. Man, we appreciate you. I hope you have a great weekend, Andy.
All right, thanks to you guys. Thanks as well. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Andy Katz joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. A lot of expectations, but that doesn't really mean a lot. Just something for us to talk about.
It doesn't, but with the pandemic and with all the time we have at home and all the time we have to be on, read the recruiting stuff and do all that, it's nice to have high expectations. It's nice to be excited about what's coming out. I mean, how would you feel if they didn't have a great recruiting class coming in and we didn't have Trace Jackson Davis coming back? I mean, it would be kind of a dismal time to be an IU fan, but it's just the opposite.
I saw a post the other day that this is potentially the first time ever Indiana will be ranked preseason football and basketball, which there's, that's an exciting thing. But then I look at the other side. I'm like, wow, how disappointing is that? Because you know how good Indiana basketball has been, how many opportunities that have been there for that to happen and to not have happened before now. Like, ouch. But it's cool. That does, Andy talked about the returning experience. And I hadn't really thought about that. There's so many teams that are losing, or they're in flux. Indiana's in no flux. They know everything. There's no unknowns on as far as the roster goes. Most teams can't say that, and that's got to be difficult to getting ready as you go along.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely a weird X factor with that, but also on the flip side of it, I mean, a lot of these teams have dealt with this in the past. This is nothing new. I do love the fact that, Indiana has a commitment. Like, they know who they've got. They know who's going to be there. They know working out right now, everything that's going to happen. I'll be honest with you. It's not because I'm an Indiana fan, but if I'm Luka Garza, there's not a chance in the world I go back to college and play. Like, that's a $5 to $8 million decision he's making to come back and do that.
And then how much does this particular year that we're in add to that?
That's why that's my biggest point with it. Like, because of all the uncertainty with everything that's going on, I don't see this. If this is just this 1 year in particular, I don't see how a guy that for sure would be drafted in the first round, probably in the top 10. I don't see how a guy like that could possibly go back to college. But you know what? It's awesome if he does for Iowa and Iowa fans. It's awesome for college basketball if he does. And you know what? I'll tell you right now, as an Indiana fan, I'd rather beat Iowa with Luka Garza on it than not on it. But then again, it'll be a lot easier to beat him without him.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. You hope Trace Jackson Davis has just an incredible season, but then if that happens, what's coming next. You're like,
I hope he has an unbelievable year, and the NBA scouts tell him, man, you just need one more year of college.
Yeah, what's the odds of that happening?
Hey, one more year, we'll draft you in the top 10.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
But
that's the thing. If he has a breakout season, but I really, the COVID is just thrown the mix into the mixing bowl so much now, because you can't even begin to try to predict anything right now.
Nope,
nothing, because everything is in flux. So.
I mean, we would have told you back in April, after we had been through this for a month or so, we would have told you by August 1st, we'll know a lot more about what's going on. And I would not say we know a lot more.
Nope. We know no more. As a matter of fact, I feel like I don't know more, but yeah, it would be interesting to see him come back for a third season. How gosh darn good would that make that Indiana team? Because we don't even know who their new freshman recruits would be at that. Well,
you would be talking about being ranked number 1 to 3 in the country. I mean, just in all reality, that's where it would be. And
that has got to be just so excruciating for Indiana fans thinking about that possibility, because it's true. It's about getting old. And when we haven't gotten old, you got to get really good. And they're not there yet as far as having just, when you look at the Dukes and all those guys, they were rolling in all those recruits, but they have to, because there's so much turnover. And I don't like that, to be honest with you. I'd rather
it is, but it's part of the college game,
life.
And we've dealt with it. But one of the interesting guests we had this week in Dusty May talking about his team, just what you said. I mean, use the same term as getting old. He said he had 3 players that had graduated that were all eligible for grad transfers to go to bigger schools and all had offers, and they all chose to come back. Imagine what that does for a team. The expectation level for them just skyrocketed.
Cannot wait to watch Florida Atlantic this year just to see how that goes, because that's
totally
incredible.
Agree.
Man, it's been another great one. Fun as always. Appreciate Alec Lasley joining us from thehoosier.com. Make sure you go there for complete coverage. Sign up. It's free. They've got all kinds of stuff on there. Also on the program today, Andy Katz joined us, of course, from Big Ten Network and Fox and NCAA.com. Always great to have him on as well. But, man, I hope it's going to be a decent weekend. I haven't even looked at the forecast. It's been raining all week, but hope people get out and do a little something. But when you are, wear your mask, man.
Wear a mask, please.
I am diligent. I was with a group yesterday. I'm like, I'm putting it on. I don't care. It's just because that doesn't bother me. To
once you get in the habit of it, it's not a big deal.
Put a little protection. I'm like, I'd rather just, yeah. But I hope you guys have had a good one. Everybody out, go out and have a great weekend. We appreciate everybody joining us this week. Until Monday, for Todd, Jimmy, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.